Welcome to Move Your Mind. My name's Nick Bracks, and this is a podcast where we have real conversations with real people and give real advice. This is the fourth episode of the Move Your Mind construction series, and today I spoke to Jorgen Gullestrup. Jorgen is a plumber and a suicidologist. He is a suicide survivor and has lived experience with mental illness. He started working at 15 as an apprentice plumber in Denmark, and he experienced a period of mental ill health, ultimately influencing his decision to migrate to Australia at the age of 23. Jorgen founded Mates in Construction, which has made waves in changing the construction industry. He's dedicated his life to helping with suicide prevention, and I found it so insightful having him on here. As I've said in previous episodes, mental health is a huge issue in the construction industry. There's 1 million construction workers in Australia. It's an area that's underserviced, and we're doing this to bring light to the industry and to spark a conversation. Thanks again for supporting us, and if you'd like to learn more about Move Your Mind, you can go to our website, moveyourmind.me, and you can join the community, or you can buy our Move Your Mind book at nickbracks.com/book. All right, Jorgen, thank you so much for making the time to come on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Nick.
Appreciate it. And I was saying beforehand, I looked up what, the work that you've done and read through, you've done a lot of things and really impressive. And I think there's, this whole podcast is about mental health in the construction industry. So, feel really lucky to have you on. And, I'm sure you've got a lot of experience and insights into, into what we're talking about.
Well, I think my main qualification in this area is that I'm a plumber, and it's my industry. So I think that when we do these kind of things, actually having that inside knowledge can sometimes be really, really helpful.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think it can, being on the ground and having that inside knowledge goes a long way. So I guess that leads to the first question. Are you able to give our audience just a background on yourself and what you're now doing?
Well, I'm a plumber by trade, and the accent might reveal that I wasn't born in Australia. So I was born in Denmark, started work when I was 15 in the industry, and developed a mental illness, and was quite unwell for several years, and sort of migrated to Australia as part of my recovery, as part of reinventing myself as a well person. And but I also realized my employer was quite central in terms of how I got supported through my apprenticeship during a period of time where, frankly, I was perhaps not a very good employee because I was not very well. So that have sort of made mental health and suicide prevention in particular really important to me. So in Australia, I did what I think that migrants do the best, pointed out to the Australians everything they did wrong, and why we need to do things more like we did in Denmark. So the natural progression from that was to become a union official, and as I was a union official for a number of years, and I got to lead one of the unions, and unfortunately lost several members to suicide, and again that sort of brought it up and made it very real, and it led to this idea that perhaps it was something that we actually needed to own as an industry, and that we as an industry actually needed to grab hold of and do something about, and that became the start of the Mates in Construction program that I was working on for about 14 years. So and I left Mates last year and tried to work out what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I sort of started my own little consultancy where I do a few different bits and pieces around mental health, well-being, lived experience around suicide and mental health, and I also get to chair the Queensland Workplace Health and Safety Board.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on everything you've done, and Mates in Construction. It's such an important organization. So I think it's it is, and the more we've only this year really started to look deeply into the construction industry and target what we're doing into that industry. And, the more we've done that, the more we've seen how important it is that you've spearheaded things like that, what you're doing. And, we need to have these conversations. We need the resources. We need to do as much as we can, on an ongoing basis to try and make these changes.
I think what was really important about MATES was that it was, is really important about MATES, is that it is an industry program. It's a place where normal sort of not natural allies came together and say, let's just put the petty politics of the day aside and lift above it to make a change for our industry. And I think that is increasingly becoming a model that other industries actually want to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the thing. It's every one of us. We all have emotions. We all feel things. We all have ups and downs, and we need to be able to cut through all the cultural stuff. I think in organizations and in industries, it's like a microcosm of society where there's all these like sort of very long-term behaviors in place that these cultures that we need to chip away at changing and strip it back and just realize like everyone we're all the same. We all have issues, mental issues. We all have physical issues, and we need to know how to talk about it, how to get help.
Yeah, and I think as human beings, we are a very communal animal. We really the herds and the communities we're in, whether that's workplaces or sports clubs or families, are really, really important to us. Often when it comes to mental health, we individualize it. We make it about personal resilience. We make it about personal strength. We make it about personal deficits, when quite often it's actually about the community not working as well as it should for us as individuals. So this idea of actually taking mental health and suicide prevention on as a collective responsibility actually starts looking at how does the whole community work rather than just the individual person within that community.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way we can make longer term changes in this area. And it stems on all levels, right down to schooling and parenting and everything. That's how else can you make long term change unless we sort of change that whole conversation on every level. Thank you so much for supporting Move Your Mind. We're expanding the offerings of the organisation, and we're tailoring everything we do to suit you guys and to try and answer to all of your needs and the questions that you send in. The book is available globally. You can find all of the links at nickbracks.com/book. And we've just released the Move Your Mind community. We've currently got a men's community group, a women's community group, a general group. We're going to be loading up other groups. And you can find all of the links at moveyourmind.me. This group's been created based on the needs of what we've heard and learnt throughout running Move Your Mind. And we have live events, we've got courses, we've got huge amounts of value, the ability to share information, share ideas, work in groups together to grow and share your learnings, to learn about different topics. You get email reminders. There's a whole lot of features in there. We're constantly updating it, and we're so excited to share it with you. You can find all of the information about it at moveyourmind.me.
If we try to change individuals, we will all fall back into our old habits if everything around us stays the same, because the way we behave is what comes natural to us based on the circumstance we find ourselves in. If we change the circumstances, then we will also change us.
Yeah, I like that. Like a nice, simple way to put it. So, in the construction industry, I guess two questions: have you seen a shift in mental health and how that's dealt with in that industry? And as it stands right now, how much more work needs to be done?
I think that there's always going to be lots of work to be done, and it's very easy for us to focus on all the work we haven't done and forget about all the work we have done.
Yeah.
I look back at this industry since 2007, or even, I joined the industry in 1984 or 5 or something like that. So, but over that time, there's been an enormous change. And I think we really need to take credit for this. Right back from the start, when we came together and said, let's just deal with suicide prevention. Let's just try to make sure that we look after people when they're in crisis. To the point where in 2016 we had the leadership of the industry together, all the industry leaders, the directors of senior leaders of Lend-Lease, of Baden's, of all the big companies came together with the senior union officials. Dave Noonan, the national secretary of the CFMEU, the national executive director of Master Builders, and spent half a day together in Sydney at a round table to say, what can we do better? And the really great thing about filling a room up with men is that it is absolutely chock-a-block full of testosterone, and none of us want to be just part of it. We all want to be the best. So we walked away from that meeting with really big ambitions about being the world's best and the world leaders and all those kind of things in mental health, and that led to the blueprint for better mental health and suicide prevention. Now, that would have been completely and utterly unthinkable in 2007. But in 2022, last time I spoke with mates, there's businesses representing about 160,000 workers in the industry signed up to the blueprint. So when you look at that in an industry with about 1 million, I think with about 900,000 workers, 160,000 workers out of that being covered by the blueprint is actually where you start coming to critical mass, where you change culture, where we actually really fundamentally, and the objective of mates, and this was very, very early on, right back in 2007, a number of us sat down and said, if we're going to do this, we don't just want to be caught up in the doing of things. We want to do things for a purpose. So we said, what would mates look like if we succeeded? What would the industry look like if we succeeded? And we devised this mantra saying that mates have succeeded when mates is no longer a program you run, but a way you do business. So if we can actually change the way that people do business, so mates is not actually necessary. And I think that's sort of the things that we're starting to see. That there's a whole heap of businesses doing all sorts of things that have nothing to do with mates, but is very much aligned with some of the ideas that mates started. And I think that's success.
That's fantastic. That's definitely success, and that's the idea. Like you're saying, how do we that's sustainable? How do we change an industry so it can be self-sustainable rather than just, I think a lot of things out there are about how do we just put a band-aid on it. But if you can really, what you were talking about, dig in and make these changes and, essentially make yourself long-term, make yourself irrelevant, that's the job done. Then
the thing we're seeing now is that it's in Queensland, my home state. We know, like, mental health is now starting becoming part of the supply mandates to government. So if you want to do government work, you need to consider mental health at work. Well, that's really starting to get into the DNA of the industry, isn't it? When we actually get the clients on board to say that not only do we want good buildings, but we want buildings that are produced without hurting people.
Yeah.
That's really good, isn't it?
Oh, it's huge. It's a massive step. And, I really like your point about reflecting on how far we've come rather than looking at, okay, let's only look at the negatives. It's like, well, it's gigantic, and it really is when you reflect on it. That's a short amount of time for this amount of change to happen. It's it's impressive, and it's exciting then to think, well, if that much has changed in that short period, imagine in another 5 years, another 10 years, another 20 years, where things are going to be.
But I also think that we need to say that this was like mates was really just a seed. Without fertile soil, you don't actually get a plant. And I really think that the construction industry is unique in that way, is that right back from the introduction of superannuation, long service leave for workers in the industry, redundancy, there's a whole heap of things that the industry have a training. The industry have a long history of solving big problems collectively as an industry, rather than sort of as I'm going to get a competitive advantage as a business by doing this better, because we have a pool of labor that is actually shared between the whole industry, saying if I can lift the bar for all workers in the industry, I would actually also lift the bar for my future workers as a business within the industry.
Yeah. I love that. Well, yeah, I appreciate you making the time to come on here and have this chat. And, like I said, these are sort of short conversations, and, feel very fortunate to have people like you coming on here. We finish every one of these episodes with just 5 sort of ending questions, 5 closing questions. So I'll try and not give you anything too crazy to throw you off, but
I do crazy.
Okay, well, we'll throw a few crazy ones out there. But no, the first one is, what's your best childhood memory? My name's Nick Bracks, and I'm a storyteller who has dedicated my entire adult life to creating positive conversations around mental health. In recent years, discussions around mental health have become less taboo and entered the mainstream vernacular. I've delivered over 1,000 mental health seminars around the globe, including several TED Talks, and I believe we all have a story to tell. In my book, Move Your Mind, I cover my story and stories from people that inspire me, as well as insights from world-leading mental health experts. This book will help you to learn how to recognise mental health issues before they become a problem. Use your personal challenges as motivators, take ownership of your well-being, and create new daily habits that increase happiness and reduce stress.
What's my best childhood? My best childhood memory was that we had a summer house where all my summers were spent in, and it was a house that my dad built by hand. And all the way through my childhood, that was where all our summers spent playing in the forest. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so nice. What do you think currently is the biggest burden on mental health in society?
I think that we increasingly, even though we are as connected as we have ever been, we are also as isolated as we have ever been. I think we are losing the community in our society. We are becoming too much individualized. There's too much about me and not enough about us.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think something has to change with that. And, technology, as good as it is leading to a lot of this isolation as well. So, yeah, very good point. What are you most afraid of?
I think that most people would like. I'm most afraid. I've had some health scares with my kids, and I'm most afraid of it. One of them one day become real.
That's a big one.
Yeah. So that would be my biggest ones.
What's your personal definition of happiness?
I think happiness is when you can sit in the moment and just really suck it in and say, this is not too bad. I don't need the roller coaster to be happy. I just need the now, when things are really good around me, and just taking the time to actually embracing it and get into it.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. A really good answer. Final one. Final one here. What are you most proud of?
My kids. I'm sorry, but I think for all of us, if we have one project in life, that is to set up the next generation. And in a lot of ways, working long hours and having a career and all that, I've probably done everything practical to stuff them up, and they're still coming through all right. So, what more can you ask for?
Well, you must have done something right, mate. So yeah, appreciate that. And if anyone listening, we'll put the link for Mates in Construction in the show notes. So if anyone wants to look that up, and yeah, I want to just say to you, thank you again for making the time, and really happy that we got to get you on here and make it happen.
Not a way at all, Nick. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you. Thanks to Jorgen Gullestrup for joining me today for Move Your Mind. And just another reminder that the Move Your Mind book is available at nickbracks.com/book. And if you'd like to learn more or join the Move Your Mind community, you can go to moveyourmind.me.